Always online, always ready to take your order, and with more products being added every single day. Anybody who is an Amazon Prime member may feel like they've just heard an advert. You find, you pay, you receive, all within a day, and you can do it 24/7. Well, Ukraine just took one look at that business model and it's decided to implement it in the Ukraine war. Faster weapons deliveries, more Russian casualties. A war that is now moving so fast that Russia has no chance of keeping up. Ukraine has turned hunting Russians into a 24/7 Amazon Prime operation, and this is how. On August 17th, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense released a statement detailing how the dot-chain defense marketplace has transformed how units get access to drones and, crucially, how quickly those drones arrive on the front. Weeks instead of months is the claim from the ministry, as it discusses how a marketplace that has only existed for a year has been tweaked and streamlined to ensure that soldiers get what they need as quickly as possible. Even weeks is an overstatement in some cases. Often, orders placed by units are fulfilled in a single day, just like you'd see if you were an Amazon Prime member. Interceptor drones, FPV drones, electronic warfare equipment, strike drones, reconnaissance drones, and ground robots can all be sent to the frontline forces within a day of orders being placed, the ministry says. Ammunition takes a little longer, though only 6 days in the fastest cases, and orders for more complex drones or those that have smaller production runs can take a few weeks. What we're seeing here is speed of deployment on an industrial scale, and the numbers are insane. During its first year of operation, Dot-Chain Defense was responsible for delivering over 1.2 million drones and pieces of equipment to Ukrainian units on the front. The product selection is growing too. Just as you might spend time scrolling through Amazon trying to find the perfect piece of furniture to complete a room, a unit on the front can scroll through 1,181 drones and ground robots from 300 different manufacturers, each of which has been designed to inflict as much pain on Russia as possible. The unit picks the drones that serve its needs best, places the order, and often receives what it needs within a day. It's a remarkable level of efficiency, and Ukraine is looking to scale. In fact, part of the reason why we're seeing such huge numbers already is that Ukraine is making the effort to make dot-chain defense available to as many units as possible. That includes making the program available to combat units that serve under Ukraine's Interior Ministry, as well as its defense industry. Along with traditional combat units, those serving with Ukraine's National Guard, National Police, and State Border Guard Service can all use the marketplace. And according to a May 16th report in the New Voice of Ukraine, they'll be able to do so for another 2 years, following the announcement of an extension of their access. The National Guard in particular has already been taking advantage, having spent $800 million allocated to it over the 6 months leading up to the outlet's article. The rapid scaling of the dot-chain defense marketplace also mirrors what we've been seeing across all of Ukrainian defense procurement. A simple philosophy seems to be at play: get it faster, use it faster, hurt Russia faster. In procurement, we've seen Ukraine contract about $8 billion worth of drones during the first half of 2026, which is double the amount procured during the same period in 2025. Dot-chain defense has been a key cog in this speedier procurement process, as has a change in Ukraine's procurement approach, which now focuses on using battlefield data to aid procurement, rather than human judgment. Subjectivity and opinions are taken out of the equation, replaced by cold, hard numbers that show precisely what is needed and where. We would hazard a guess that this aspect of Ukraine's Amazon-like procurement structure is one part of the legacy that former Defense Minister Mikhailo Fedorov leaves behind after his stint was cut short. Speed is what Ukraine needs, and this news of dot-chain defense's remarkable numbers comes on the back of President Volodymyr Zelenskyy making the need for that speed abundantly clear. In mid-July, following a review of Ukraine's frontline situation, Zelenskyy declared that one of the keys to Ukrainian victory is faster weapons supplies. "We must not lose a single day in defending Ukraine's independence, our positions, and our people," Zelenskyy said, drilling the message home. Speed, speed, speed. From order to operation. That's what Ukraine needs, and it's clear that dot-chain defense and its Amazon Prime-like model have helped turn Ukraine into a 24/7 Russian hunting machine. We'll tell you how impactful all of this has been later. First, you'll probably have a question: what is dot-chain defense? We've dropped some hints already, but dot-chain defense is essentially an online marketplace that Ukraine's combat units can use to place orders for drones, robots, and ammunition that they need on the front. The official website describes the platform as enabling the rapid and targeted procurement of drones and other military equipment, and the entire thing has been built around the Ukrainian military's operational needs. Again, it's like Amazon. You get personalized recommendations based on how you shop. Ukraine's soldiers get recommendations based on what the battlefield data says. The Amazon comparisons don't end there. Chain Defense is, at its core, an e-commerce platform. That enables the speed we've mentioned. Units aren't paying for their drones out of their own pockets. Ukraine provides funding, and those units use battlefield data to determine which products on the platform work best for their needs. The National Guard example we shared earlier is the perfect example. $800 million provided by the government and spent by the people who know exactly where it needs to be spent. It's essentially a component of a decentralized command structure that sees Ukraine trust data and units on the field to know what they need to do their jobs. And units all over Ukraine are using Chain Defense. 461 of them and counting have received equipment via the platform. There are even features you would expect to see on Amazon. Delivery tracking is available, as is the ability to leave feedback on drones and other equipment. Streamlining comes to the fore again. When a drone is effective, the feedback will show it. But when it isn't, Ukraine's units will know not to waste their funding. All of this information also helps manufacturers. They can see the order numbers and the feedback, all of which amounts to data they can use to tweak their existing drones, come up with new designs, and ultimately better serve the needs of the troops on the front. It's an ingenious system, and it's also been blended with another brilliant Ukrainian innovation, the Brave One marketplace. Brave One works a little differently from Chain Defense. Under Brave One, Ukrainian units receive what essentially amounts to reward points for claiming Russian scalps. An eliminated soldier grants X number of points, taking out an air defense system offers Y points, and so on. It's a gamified incentive system, with the points earned being spendable on new drones for the units that earn them. These points allow units to stretch beyond their official budgets, and over 400 units are taking part in the program. As of the end of June, those units have ordered more than 500,000 drones, ground robots, and other systems using rewards points alone. And according to Euromaidan Press, those orders can be placed on Chain Defense as well as Brave One. Presumably this means that the two marketplaces are linked, if not directly, then on the back end, allowing Ukraine's units to maximize both funding and points to get the drones they need. As we said, ingenious. So ingenious that others are taking notice. On March 30th, Euromaidan Press reported that the US has launched the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Marketplace, or UASM. Designed for the US military, the platform makes acquiring drone-related technology easier for the Army and its various allies, including other countries and government partners. Every product comes with a listing that includes technical specifications and feedback, and orders can be placed directly on the platform. If all of that sounds familiar, then it should. The US has basically copied the Chain Defense and Brave One marketplaces because it recognizes how effective these platforms are, not only in terms of boosting the speed of procurement, but also when it comes to figuring out which drones work, why they work, and how they're best used. We've basically seen the concept come full circle. Amazon is an American company, and it's created the backbone for modern e-commerce platforms. Ukraine saw that backbone, copied it, and shoved it into its own marketplaces to help its units. And now the whole thing has come back around, so the US is taking inspiration from Ukraine. It's a cycle of innovation that makes everybody better. And in Ukraine, that innovation makes every Russian soldier very, very scared. Because at the end of the day, Chain Defense exists to make Ukraine's military a more lethal killing machine. That's the last thing that Russia wants, as it knows that these marketplaces have changed everything. But before we dig deeper, this is a reminder that you're watching The Military Show. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, now's the perfect time to hit the button before we get back to the video. Now, there are two reasons why Ukraine managing to turn Chain Defense into a 24/7 Amazon-like platform is so important. Speed is everything in war, and in Ukraine, drones are key to defeating Russia. We'll start with the speed aspect, seeing as we've already touched on it several times. It's no secret that speed plays a huge role, especially in modern warfare. Firepower is also crucial, as it always has been, but in the 21st century in particular, the speed at which that firepower gets to the front is as important as the firepower itself. It's all about logistics, and that's really what Chain Defense and similar platforms provide. They are nodes, links in a massive supply chain that keeps weapons flowing to the front. Firepower may win battles, but it's reliable and fast logistics that win wars. And that extends beyond simply getting drones to frontline units faster. Food, water, fuel, and equipment are all key. No matter how strong an army's weapons may be, it will experience losses both in people and morale if it can't get its logistics sorted out. But it's not just about increasing the speed of delivery. Fast innovation and slashing away at bureaucratic red tape are also vital, and dot-chain defense offers the perfect example on both fronts. When it comes to innovation, well, who else would have thought of creating its own version of Amazon dedicated to sending drones out to frontline troops? They may be inspired by existing e-commerce and gamification principles, but dot-chain defense and Brave One are ideas that come from Ukraine. Those ideas are being copied now, but they have been unique for a long time. The fact that Ukraine not only comes up with these concepts, but executes them quickly at scale and so effectively that they just might work right away is one of the main reasons why it's been able to pull off the battlefield momentum shift that we've seen throughout 2026. As for the bureaucracy angle, Ukraine's Ministry of Defense was among the first to highlight this soon after dot-chain defense was made available to units. The decision by the Ministry of Defense has eliminated unnecessary bureaucracy in procurement and granted brigades real autonomy. The military can now select the UAVs they need in just a few clicks without lengthy approvals or paperwork, the ministry said in September 2025. With this system, requests don't have to be kicked up the chain of command. Units don't have to wait for approval from a commander and then a general and then somebody in the Ministry of Defense before an order can even begin. They get their funding, check dot-chain defense, and order what they need in the space of a few clicks. Simple, easy, and for Russia, devastatingly effective when it comes to keeping Ukraine's defenses strong and equipping assault units that are liberating territory across the front. Battlefield speed is decisive, and Ukraine has been the best example of this fact that anybody has seen in decades. Its ability not only to adapt to what Russia throws at it, but also to innovate independently to serve its own battlefield needs, has shown the world that it's not just having access to the best weapons that wins wars. Knowing how to use what you have and building smart systems around your weapons, such as building up battlefield detection, gathering data to inform decisions, and streamlining procurement, all matter just as much as the weapons themselves. The dot-chain defense platform is the perfect example of several of these concepts coming together. But it's the second reason, and the main piece of equipment on that platform, that is truly terrifying to Russia: drones. They have been effective throughout the war, and they're even more important to Ukraine than ever before. The numbers tell us everything about how important drones have become to Ukraine. Production alone demonstrates that Ukraine clearly sees the effective use of drones as a potential war winner. According to a July Tech Radar article, Ukraine has confirmed that it will manufacture 10 million drones by the end of 2026, bolstered by the signing of drone deals such as the $1.1 billion deal it signed to get more drone funding from the European Union. 10 million is a milestone, not a peak. Ukraine's next goal is to get to the point where it's building 20 million drones annually, and plans are reportedly underway to enable this doubling in production. Ukraine has overcome a lot of skepticism to get to this point, as Zelenskyy himself recalls. "I remember when I first publicly announced the state's plan, 1 million drones per year. There was a lot of skepticism everywhere, both inside the country and outside it. We make 10 million drones a year, 10, and it will be 20. Those drones are ever present in Ukraine, on the front, in the near rear, and inside Russia itself. Again, the numbers show us why Ukraine is marching towards such massive drone production. By the beginning of 2026, Politico was reporting that between 70 and 80% of all casualties on both sides of the Ukraine war are being caused by drones. That's actually a bad thing for Russia, even though it's experiencing its own drone success, as Latvia's Constitution Protection Bureau points out. This makes the war more dynamic at the tactical level, but reduces the chance of either side making a strategic breakthrough, the Bureau said. Russia needs strategic breakthroughs. Ukraine needs to use its drones to inflict as many casualties as it can while carrying out targeted counterattacks. With drones now being such a key part of the war, it's Ukraine that benefits from their use far more than Russia. The percentages have risen since earlier in the year. According to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, drones are responsible for as many as 90% of Russian casualties, which means human-to-human engagements are becoming increasingly rare. Again, good for Ukraine and bad for Russia. This means Russian soldiers are often dying without ever having a chance to push Ukraine's troops out of their fortifications. Drones are just as effective in the occupied territories, where Ukraine is engaged in a growing mid-range strike campaign during 2026. In an August 13th piece, Militani revealed that Ukraine's forces carried out over 250 mid-range strikes per day in July, adding up to a total of about 7,800, which itself is 126 times higher than the figure from June. Russia simply can't escape Ukraine's drones. And with its Amazon Prime operations set up via Chain Defense, Ukraine will only make the situation worse. The massive levels of drone production ensure that products are almost always available on the platform. Combine that with the speed of delivery, and Russia's forces will feel like they're trying to cut heads off a hydra. When one drone falls, there are always more coming to take its place. Ukraine's emphasis on streamlining drone procurement as it slashes the time needed for drones to reach its units also has another impact. It's cutting the costs of hurting Russia. Business Insider published an interesting piece on August 18th, breaking down the various costs Ukraine incurs for each success that it has. Based on figures from June, Ukraine spends an average of $3,032 per Russian service member struck. The cost goes down to $2,674 per piece of Russian equipment and $1,487 for hitting an infrastructural facility. These costs are extremely low, and they're made possible by everything that Ukraine is doing with its drones. Weapons that cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, aren't irrelevant, but they're also not the only or even primary option anymore. It's all about drones. And everything that Ukraine can do to streamline getting those drones to its troops, as we see with Chain Defense, helps to drive these costs even lower. For Russia, the most important impact of Ukraine's Amazon Prime operation is what it experiences on the battlefield. Ukraine has become a Russian hunting machine, and the casualty figures bear that claim out. In July, Russia had its worst month of 2026 so far, the Kyiv Independent reports. 42,860 Russian soldiers bit the dust, succumbing to injury or death in just 31 days. If we assume that the claim that 90% of Russian casualties are now caused by drones is true, that means 38,554 of these casualties were caused by weapons that can be acquired on Chain Defense. And it gets worse when we expand into the entire year, which has seen Russia lose almost 225,500 soldiers as of the end of July. Using that 90% estimate, that's 202,950 troops lost to Ukraine's drone warfare. This is the entire point. More drones, arriving faster than ever to the front, are killing Russia's 2026 strategy. Oh, and winter is coming. No, a shock new season of Game of Thrones isn't on the way. What we mean is that winter is coming to Ukraine in just a few months. And with winter and fall comes trees shedding their leaves and the disappearance of a whole lot of cover that Russia relies on to infiltrate troops behind the front lines. We have a feeling that activity on Chain Defense is going to reach new levels as the war heads deeper into 2026, and Russia is going to be paying through the nose with the blood of its own soldiers as a result. Ukraine's Amazon Prime-like drone marketplace will make sure of that. And inside Russia, Ukraine is also taking the fight to a more traditional Amazon-like structure. More wild berries have been picked in Ukraine's smartest move of the war yet, and you can find out all about it in our video. But before you move on, everything you see here is researched, verified, and produced by real people. If you value that, subscribe, comment below, and consider becoming a member for access to exclusive content. And thank you for watching.